My name is Arin Lindauer, and you're listening to A Life Without Struggle. I'm a wife, a mother of 2 wonderful children, a 2-time best-selling author, and a highly driven and successful entrepreneur. In my 17-plus year career as a mindset and health expert, I know what holds women back from a life you only dream about. Whether you're a CEO, a businesswoman, or executive, I started this podcast because I have been where you are, and I know you want and deserve more out of your life. I believe women are limitless. We just get lost along the way. The process to get you there is the topic and purpose of this podcast. When you understand what you want, you can truly step into a life without struggle. Welcome, and I'm so thankful you're here. Welcome back to another episode of Life Without Struggle. My name is Arin Lindauer, and today we're going to talk about what you should do if you find yourself on a semaglutide or one of these GLP-1s, and what all should you do? Are you just simply taking the shot? Are you adjusting anything when it comes to your nutrition? Are you doing anything when it comes to your resistance training? And here's the catch. For most people, we are just so desperate to lose weight. We have different metabolic diseases that are creeping up on us, and we have been desperately trying to lose weight, trying all the diets, doing all the fads, doing all the different workouts, and nothing seems to stick. Nothing seems to work. Now, there's a whole lot that goes into that from a professional and from someone being in this space for almost 20 years and just seeing human behavior. There is a lot that goes into this, but I'm also not naive to the fact that we live in a time where science is always advancing. We're always finding different ways, different cheat codes, if you will. And so as a professional, I was very, very against the GLP-1, the semaglutides, because there wasn't a lot of stuff out there other than, someone's going to lose weight. And some of that weight is going to be lean tissue. And when that happens, what they're not educating the everyday population is, hey, when you lose weight on the scale, and part of that weight is lean tissue, you are going to slow down your metabolic process. And there's a way to combat against this. And actually, now that these things have been out longer, we've had more practical experience with them. Even myself as a professional, I have come very full circle on this, that we have to resistance train. But the problem is most people do not understand all the things that actually go into a proper resistance training program. We also don't understand how to effectively look at food. And for someone who has absolutely struggled to lose weight, I feel that these GLP-1s, these semaglutides, can be wildly beneficial because it's absolutely going to turn off the chatter. It's absolutely going to stop the cravings. There is a lot of different theories and thoughts around how to dose these. And I think that is an important conversation to have with your doctor and to really educate yourself on what the dosing schedule should look like for you personally. And you're going to have to work through some side effects. I don't think there's a soul out there that isn't going to experience some side effects, but there's ways that we can work around this. And so you may be saying, well, gosh, why didn't my doctor tell me all these things? Why didn't my doctor tell me how I needed to eat? Why didn't my doctor tell me how to exercise? Well, guess what? Why didn't they do that before the GLP-1, before the semaglutide? And the reason is that's not their lane. For most doctors, they want to treat you, the patient who is presenting symptoms, the patient who is coming with different metabolic disease and risk, and they're coming in and advocating for you to do the things that they feel is in your best interest to create the desired outcome. The part that is a disservice is to think your doctor has all the information when it comes to how to put together a proper resistance training program, how to, divide up your macros, how many calories you should take in. Listen, for most of your doctors out there, they did not have that in school. It was not part of their curriculum. Now, you may argue that, hey, it should be, and I don't blame you there, but we have to understand what is the purpose of our doctors and what are they doing for you, and what do you need to understand and advocate for and seek additional help to help you through this process. And so what's so important is, we look at these drugs and these compounds as a tool in our toolbox. And when we use this tool, what else do we need to consider? What else should we be doing to help make this journey a worthwhile journey for you? Because the worst thing about using a GLP-1 or a semaglutide is losing all this weight just to gain it back. And so then once again, it's yet another tried attempt, another failed attempt. And the problem with this one is this one's going to leave you worse off than you were, because if you've lost some of that lean tissue, you are going to slow down your metabolic process. You're going to gain back the weight. And of that weight, you are not gaining back muscle. You're gaining back more fat, which is actually putting you at higher risk. So, okay, great. What can you do? And that's where I want to take this podcast for you here today is, okay, we've got to make sure that if we are using one of these popular drugs that can be a game changer for fat loss, we have to focus on preserving our muscle, preserving our hormones, understanding our energy. And all this takes is having a little bit of a strategy, especially when it comes to women. And we need to understand how you are going to have to adjust your protein, adjust your workouts when you're using a GLP-1 or a semaglutide. And so what we want to think about is we've got to absolutely protect the muscle. How we protect our muscle is we consume 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of your goal body weight. And so one of the wild things that I do for most women, now most women listening to this, you're going to realize like, hey, that's actually no different than what Arin has been preaching all the time. And so let's just say your goal is to be 150 pounds. We're going to want to shoot for that 120 to 150 grams of protein every single day. So you may be like, well, how the heck do I spread this out? How do I get that in? That seems like a lot. You want to think about getting 25 to 35 grams of protein in each of your meals, and you may have to add in an additional snack to get that in. Now, understanding we need to still be focused on calories. So here's the thing, when you are looking at foods that are going to be higher in protein, they are going to tend to be lower on our calories. Now, with that said, we still need to be mindful that you have to be in a caloric reduction in order for you to see weight loss. And so, okay, why this all matters is when you're using a semaglutide GLP-1, your appetite absolutely will be reduced. Your chatter in your brain when it comes to food absolutely is going to be turned off, and you're actually going to have to remind yourself to eat. This is one of the most common things that I've talked with people about, I've coached clients through, is you will often see someone completely undereat. And of course, we're not going to consume enough protein. So then guess what happens? Without enough good protein, your body is going to burn your muscle, your lean tissue, instead of fat. So muscle is absolutely key for hormone health, your metabolism, and just really when we think about your long-term weight maintenance. So you want to think about some high protein foods such as eggs, egg whites, Do not worry about cholesterol. That has been debunked. Think about your Greek yogurt, your cottage cheese. And when I consume these products, I personally always consume full fat. I do not do any of the fat-free, low-fat products. First off, there's a huge taste difference. And second, to make it low-fat, fat-free, they've put other stuff in there that we really shouldn't be consuming in order to get it that way. And the fat is not the problem. The fat is a good thing. Consider taking in some type of protein shake. Personally, I'm always going to go after a whey-based protein shake. If your body tolerates it, a plant protein can be okay. But personally, we highly recommend always having some form of a whey protein. And proteins are not all created equal. You do want to look for proteins that have about 5 or less ingredients. They're minimally processed. They're still a processed food, but you can find better quality ones out there that have lower the amount of ingredients. And you need to be able to actually read all the ingredients. If it's like this huge of a label, we want to make sure you're steering clear from those. And then, of course, we want to think about good old chicken, turkey, fish. And so those are going to be the things that we really want to go after. If you are going to go more plant-based, you can consider the tofu. Again, just remember that is absolutely processed. If you think about lentils, you think about edamame, your different beans can be a source. Just you're going to increase the fiber, so just be careful with that. But those are some quick and easy ways to get our protein in. When we think about how we're going to eat when we're using one of these, we're going to have to set some sort of a system around how many calories am I going to get in and when am I going to eat it? What am I going to eat it? Again, this is really no different than how I would coach a client. It's just now we know that we're working with a tool that's going to help accelerate this, but it's absolutely going to turn off any idea of being hungry. And while you may be like, oh man, that would be so helpful. Well, now the flip side happens that we don't eat enough. And so if you see folks walking around really gaunt looking, their face is almost caving in, they've just rapidly lost the fat. And believe it or not, it's better for us to do lower doses, have this take just a little bit more time. And it's actually going to produce just you're going to have a better relationship with food. You're going to start understanding your behaviors. And what you're really going to start understanding is, wow, I was over consuming in so many different areas where now using this drug, you're absolutely going to be nauseous. You cannot consume more food. So, okay, now let's talk on the flip side of all of this. So, okay, we're eating high protein, we're staying in a caloric deficit, the GLP-1, the semaglutide is helping us turn off that chatter, really get into a fat burning machine is what we want to get into. But so what else can we do? And it is absolutely a disservice to give someone these compounds without having them do resistance training. When you resistance train, and it needs to be progressive in nature, you are absolutely going to preserve your lean tissue, but you are also going to build your lean tissue. Just because you're losing weight doesn't mean you can't maintain or build lean tissue in the process. And all this is going to do is it's just going to help support your metabolic health. It's going to help with your insulin sensitivity. It's also going to help avoid burnout, meaning it's going to help the semaglutide can lower energy at first. So there's a lot that actually goes into this. It's extremely complex. I'm trying to keep it very, very just kind of surface level because this is the stuff that people need to get their hands on. And then you need to hire a professional that's going to help you put this all together because everybody's going to have a little bit different when it comes to how they need to consume their food, some of the timing of it, what sounds good, if you're nauseous, what to do with your bowel movements. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into this that a coach can help you through. And then when it comes to how to strength train, we are going to recommend that you need to strength train minimum 2 times per week to 4 times a week is what we see to be sufficient. And then we want to work on full body workouts. So total body workouts, we're going to use moderate to heavy weights. We want to be in those rep schemes of like 8 to 12 reps. We're going to do about 2 to 4 sets, and we're going to vary this. And we're also going to focus on the big lifts, like we need to squat, we need to deadlift, we need to row, we need to press. Those are going to be the foundational movements that we will do in every single workout. Now, again, for some of you who have followed me for a long time, you've listened to my stuff for a long time, you're going to be like, gosh, Arin, that doesn't sound any different. And it's not. It really isn't. It's just, again, we're using a tool in our toolbox to help us. But what we want to think about is consistent strength training. This is what's going to really help you, and you're going to absolutely love the look when you get to the other side. No different if we were not using the GLP-1 semaglutide. So the other thing that you want to think about is absolutely increasing your movement. We want to absolutely walk. Walking is going to help for your blood sugar. It's also going to help for fat loss. The other thing that we want to think about is more like breathing and meditation, because this is going to help with just supporting our cortisol. And then we do want to have rest days. We want to have intentional days that we are not, getting after it in the gym. We're maybe not moving our body as much, because we don't want to overtrain or be so low on fuel that you just run yourself into the ground. You throw everything off from a hormonal standpoint. And so again, we don't want to fight ourselves, but we want to do this in a very calculated, easy, but also we want to mimic everyday life. Maybe you're not on the shot for the rest of your life, and that would be a good thing. That's what we're advocating. We're advocating for this to be maybe a tool to help us get, the needle moving a little bit. But on the flip side, you've got to learn how to maintain this. And the thing that we also want to think about is you don't want to do excessive cardio. No different than how I would coach a woman right now is I don't want her doing excessive cardio and then going and under eating, because again, all you're going to do is lose muscle, lean tissue, and you're also going to put your hormones in chaos. Your hormones are not going to respond well to doing all of this activity. And then on top of it, putting more stress on your body because now you're not consuming enough food. The other things that we want to absolutely avoid is any HIIT type of training. HIIT training is fine done in small doses. The problem is this is like what people do all the time, but it's not something you want to do when you're in a caloric deficit and you're trying to lose body fat, because again, we are putting your hormones in chaos. We are raising cortisol. We're just getting after it harder than what we need to, and it just does not create the best environment for weight loss. So some other things that you want to consider, again, if you're using these GLP-1s, is we really want to make sure your hydration is in a good spot. And when we're hydrating, we also want to think about our electrolytes. And when we keep your energy and digestion stable, because here's the thing, we have to keep you hydrated. If we are slowing the process of your bowels, and this is a common thing, is feeling constipated, feeling bloated, is when we can increase your hydration. When we can move your body more, you're going to help encourage a bowel movement, and that's a good thing. Now, there's rhyme and reason why we're slowing this down, but we can help kind of bridge these gaps by keeping your hydration, and then along with hydration, we want to make sure that your electrolytes are staying in a good spot. So we want to track your protein. We want to understand how much protein you're getting in. 0.8 to 1 gram per your goal weight is what we want to get you towards. And then we want to resistance train and rest, because if we don't, again, like so many of you are going to be like, oh my God, that's exactly what you told us all the time. And here's the deal. It's no different. It really isn't. And so when we resistance train and we rest, we're going to keep our hormones in a really good place. And that for most women is where we absolutely mess this up. So many women that I talk to, they're trying to crank out more work. They're trying to get another load of laundry in. And listen, I totally respect that and I understand that, but you will serve yourself so much more going to bed after you put those kids to bed, and then getting up maybe a little bit earlier, because every hour that we can get you in bed before midnight, you are absolutely saving yourself from a hormonal standpoint, which is going to help you in the whole big picture. So I also want to just add into, for all of my women listening to this, is do not fear lifting heavy weights, because what we're doing is we're adding lean tissue to your body. You are not going to become huge, not at all. But what we're doing is we're preserving your metabolism, your strength. We're going to help your balance. It's also just going to help with your confidence. When you look in the mirror and you're like, yes, I lost all this weight, but you have the tone and you have the definition, and you don't just look like a skinnier version of yourself. This was something that, it used to be women would come to me and talk to me about, oh my gosh, I started running and restricting my calories, but I just look like a skinny version that I was and they would call themselves fat. And I said, yes, you are. This is just a skinny version of how you used to look. And for what most women desire with their look, they have to strength train, but you're going to have to move heavier weights. You absolutely want to start out with your 5s, your 10s, your 15s, but I'm always going to challenge women when appropriate. We are going to have to start picking up heavier things. And so here's the thing, you got to start where you're at, and then you build and you build. But what happens is I see women always grab the 10s, and then they will always grab the 10s, and that's the weight that they always pick up. And they never challenge themselves to see, okay, can I do this with good form, with integrity of the movement? So we just want to look at this from a big picture of, okay, if we're choosing to use the GLP-1, how do we appropriately do this? And it's absolutely a disservice by our medical professionals to not encourage our patients to hire a coach who is proficient in nutrition, who understands progressive overload, who understands progressive resistance training, because it's going to have to change. As you lose weight, your numbers will change. What you do in the gym is going to change, and that's a good thing. And this is how the body continues to adapt. And then ultimately, at the end of the day, we help you lose an appropriate amount of weight. That weight is fat. We're preserving or adding to our lean tissue. And then when you look in the mirror, you absolutely love who you see. But most importantly, we've mitigated all of our risk for disease. We have gotten a really good relationship with food. We're now no longer dependent upon our food. We no longer binge eat. We no longer use our emotions to dictate how we eat. And we use food for the fuel to help us do the things that we want to do. So anyways, I hope this was super helpful to understand, because it's absolutely a disservice to put someone on these shots and not educate them on what protein and nutrition need to look like, to help them understand the emotional ties that we have to our food, and to understand that, sure, your appetite is going to get changed. That's part of this. But by you under eating and just glorifying the hell out of the scale going down, that's not the fix either. And we need to do this in a way that is truly helping people for life. You don't have to stay on these things forever. You can use it for a time and then you can move on. But one thing that I want all of you to take away from this is the recommendations that I would give a woman without the GLP-1 is going to be pretty darn close to what we're going to do with using it. So it's really about you having an informed choice, making the best decisions for you with your health provider, and then hiring a competent professional to help you with the nutrition and then to help you with the resistance training, because expecting your doctor to know this is absolutely unfair. This is not what they went to school for. This is not what they're trained to do. So curious what questions pop up, you can hit me up on any social medias. It's just Arin, Arin, last name Lindauer, Lindauer. LINDAUER, and I'm happy to help. I'm happy to answer any questions. And if you're saying, hey girl, I need some help, I need a coach who actually gets it. Listen, we've coached a lot of clients through this now, using these tools, not using these tools, because you can still lose weight. It's just, we have a tool in our toolbox if you choose to use it. So let me know if I can be your coach and I can help you through this. And again, I hope this brought some awareness that these are the things that have to go hand in hand if we're going to do this. Otherwise, you are absolutely putting yourself in a worse spot should you go off the GLP-1, gain the weight back. You won't have the same metabolism. It's going to be even harder to lose weight on the flip side of all of this. So I hope you take some good stuff away from this and let me know how I can help.